doing my post-graduation in UCL. And the topic I'm presenting today is also part of my research that I'm currently doing. So today I'll be discussing on our heritage, which is at risk. And I'll be discussing on heritage at the risk first, and then I'll talk about what communities can do for this. Starting on, we all know about the constant risk of earthquake that we have because of our seismic vulnerability. We have seen the earthquake, we have seen the devastation, and we know about that. But earthquake is something that we cannot avoid. It will happen. But what we can do is we can minimize the extent of devastation by way we manage and restore our heritage, and by way we manage and develop our new cities or new urban areas. So today I'm focusing on the existing risk due to the improper management and restoration that is happening now, and the emerging insensitive urban planning and development activities that is happening in the country. So starting with the existing causes, I'll talk about the problems in the restoration and heritage management works in Nepal. So this is a timeline from 1200 to 2015. So in the timeline you can see the number of earthquakes that has happened. So we have, in past 800 years, we have around 9 mega earthquakes. So these are the mega earthquakes, not the earthquake below 6. It's earthquake below 7 in magnitude. So we have 9 mega earthquake, and if you see the gap between the earthquake, the time gap, it's not consistent. As it is said in the media that we have in the past in every 100 to 80 years, it's not like that. Earthquake doesn't come like that. So it can happen anytime. So we cannot predict, but we can prepare. So we need to prepare all the time. Like you can see in 1916, like there was an earthquake in 1916 and there was an earthquake in 1934. So this is something to be very careful, and we have to prepare. So this is one thing, but good thing about Nepal is that we have our own legacy of building and rebuilding our heritage. Like we have all the monuments and we have these all earthquakes. How come all these monuments are still there? It's because we have our own heritage of rebuilding. So heritage is not just the monument itself, heritage is also our action of rebuilding. So we have the legacy of building and rebuilding our own heritage. So the question is how we rebuild our heritage at that time. So before 1950s, our heritage management practices used to be done by our social traditional community organization called GUTHI system. So GUTHI used to manage and maintain heritage with the support of the government. So it was a key actor, and it used to work on maintenance, management and restoration. And the activity of GUTHIs was marginalized after the introduction of modern heritage management system. So now I'll talk about the modern heritage management system. So it started with the establishment of Department of Archaeology. So after establishment of Department of Archaeology, it took over the control of all the monuments. And then the festivals and other things were left for GUTHIs. And after 1960s, there was a nationalization of GUTHI. So after that, GUTHI lost its land, and after the land reforms, GUTHI has lost the control over its land, so it doesn't have a resource to conduct its activity, so it became heavily reliant on government, so it cannot function well. So you can see after 1960s, the GUTHI has been in sharp decline. Then after 1960s, we see increase in state-led heritage initiative. So after 1960s, all the heritage initiatives are led by state, and after 1970s, we see a lot of involvement of foreign donors and international agencies. So in all of the state-led heritage management practices, there's a heavy influence of donors, which is a good, as well as there are some problems within itself as well. And then when we talk about community involvement in heritage, we only see community involvement in 1990s. After the end of Panchayat system, there was a brief time where there was community involvement, and again it was overshadowed by donor-led practices. And interestingly, after 2015 earthquake, we see a rise in community involvement. So that is something very interesting. And the reason why I'm focusing on community involvement is that to make the management and maintenance sustainable, we need a community participation. And it's not just that we are talking about community participation. The community participation is also mentioned in the UNESCO's document and even UN's Sustainable Development Goals, Millennium Development Goals, and all of them, they are focusing on community development, which is not happening in Nepal. But after earthquake of 2015, there has been a sharp increase in community involvement. Then, along with the community involvement, donors have also started doing their works independently in the heritage sector, and state and GUTI are also doing from their own level. So, before we talk about what communities can do, we should also understand and learn from the existing processes, from other processes, so that it can function well. So I'll first start with I'll just briefly explain about all the processes, how it works, and what are the problems in it. So starting with the GUTHI-LED heritage management. So what happens in this process is, it's very simple. The GUTI works as an agency, as an institution, and it has its own resource, land, so it doesn't have to depend on government funds. It can work with support or without support of the government fund. Then community is a key actor here. So it works on the contribution of time, energy, and resource of the community. So this way they used to manage without foreign support, without any donors or without anything. We used to do that. But now we are not being able to do this. So it is something that we should also reflect on past. We should learn something from past. So this is also something of our heritage, of managing our own heritage. Then the problem of GUTI right now is, since it is dependent heavily on the government fund, the fund allocated from the GUTI corporation, and it doesn't have land, it is not being financially able to do its work. So that is a problem now. And apart from that, there has been a decline of local skill and local participation as well. And the thing that we activists who think of reviving or protecting our heritage and culture, we should also think about the flexibility of our GUTI system. It's not being flexible enough, or it's not being attractive enough for youngsters to get involved. So because of that, GUTI is declining. And having said that, despite the decline, there are some small private GUTIs that are still working. So this is an example of a temple complex which is maintained, which was built by GUTI. Which was built by GUTI system. It was built after 1934 earthquake, and it was managed by the GUTI, by a small private GUTI. And instead of supporting these GUTIs, what has happened so far is, these GUTI complexes are facing the encroachment even from public, and encroachment from road department, and encroachment from urban development department. And so, like you can see in the picture, there is a red circle. So there used to be a party there. So there used to be a party, the public rest house, and after earthquake, it was damaged. And instead of rebuilding or helping the GUTIs to rebuild, what authorities did was, they see this as an opportunity to expand the road. So they expanded the road, and even the public was happy with the road expansion. They don't care about the heritage. It's not that government is insensitive, even the public are insensitive on this. So there's clearly a lack of awareness in the public as well. Now talking about the state-led heritage management, it is a bit complex than the GUTI-LED, and technical support of UNESCO and other international organizations, and it also relies heavily on the donors, foreign donors, and sometimes it works under its own budget, but it is supposed to work under its own budget, but the budget is always a problem. And there's always an issue of participation in this. And the main problem here in the state-led heritage management practices is it involves a third-party contractor as implementer. So a third-party contractor or consultant will implement the project. So heritage becomes a project for them. So these are the problems: lack of budget, issue of participation. And when I say issue of participation, it's not just the issue of participation of the community, it's the issue of participation of the civil society. Even the civil society of Nepal is not consulted. So only donors know about what's going to happen, so they are in the decisive role. And also the question of competency, there's a question of competency of our own bureaucracy, and also the question can be raised to the contractors, like how the contract is given. So there are a lot of problems in the government-led practices as well. So this is an example of Rani Pokhari. This was built completely against the rule of conservation. In the rule of conservation, they are supposed to build with the same structure, with the same technology, and with the same material. So they introduced concrete. So this was done by the contractor, and this led to a serious public outcry. So people opposed, and it became a ground for people to take over the heritage. So from this point, people start exposing the problems within the heritage management system of the government. So this was a turning point as well. Donor-led heritage management practice. So this works within the state-led as well and independently as well. So it needs authority of the state to authorize its work. Then it works with the technical support of international agencies like UNESCO, and basically it works with financial support of the donor. Then it introduces the experts. It hires experts from abroad, and they will do the work. And involvement of community is a part of question here. In some cases they are involved for consultation, and in some cases they are not. So it's not considered, but the thing is that the donors are always in the decisive role in this kind of approach. So the problem in this is that it is very piecemeal approach. You do the project, and then what? Who will manage the project? The donors will go, the NGOs will go, who will do the management? So it's not sustainable that way. An issue of participation. Unless until community is participated, they will not understand the value. So to make them understand the value of the heritage also, they need to be participated. So this is an example of donor-led heritage management practice. So it was the reconstruction done by this kind of practice. And the problem with this is, you can see in the picture, in the other side, this is of the Patin Darbar Square. It's on the back side. There's a cafe as well. So in the other side, there's our traditional style, and this is built with a European influence. So they are having their stamp over our heritage. So you have a European style of windows, you have European pilasters and everything. So this can happen when we put donors in a decisive role. So this is a conjecture in a conservation. So this kind of problem can happen. So now coming back to right now. So right now the existing process is as complex as this diagram is. So it's very complex. Everything is happening at the same time. But within all these activities, there are emergent practices where community is taking lead and doing a lot of things, where civil society is also trying hard to do a lot of things. So there are many promising activities that are going on, and also some quite risky activities or dangerous activities are also going on. I'll show that in the next slide. So this is an example of emergent practices that is going on. So there has been increase in community activism. So this is an excellent example of community activism, which started with exposing the wrongdoings of authorities in the heritage sector. It exposed how the concrete was used in Rani Pokhari, the problem in tendering system, and then they finally took over the task of rebuilding Kathmandu, which is the important heritage of Kathmandu. So this can be, and this has a potential to be a milestone for community-based heritage conservation or reconstruction, not just for Nepal, but for our entire world. So this is something to be proud of. So this is very interesting. Then we have another initiative called Rebuild BUNGAMATI. So this is led by national and international university. So in this is interesting because it's not just about reconstructing. The problem with our reconstruction is that we are only building houses. If you see the reports of National Reconstruction Authority or any, we build this many houses, and even NRN also decided to make this many houses, or some celebrities making this many houses. It's not about number of houses. The post-earthquake scenario can be an opportunity to revitalize the economy, redevelop the settlement. And interesting thing about this is they plan to revitalize economy with the reconstruction. So you solve two problems with one solution. So this is something that can be appreciated, but the question is also how community is going to be participated in this. And then this is what I call a dangerous possible threat to our heritage in inner settlement. So this is a plan of Kathmandu Metropolitan Office to make a house pooling in inner settlement. So they want to build a inner settlement. This plan was proposed for Kilagal area. So Kilagal area, and this is very insensitive because we have a lot of festival route going on from there, and we have local shrines, we have courtyard, and we have our own traditional urban fabric. So this kind of structure can destroy. So this it is a proposal only, but it is something that is dangerous, and it's not that it cannot happen. It can happen. In Europe, we have seen in 1960s where entire inner settlement area was destroyed with building like this. There's a term called Brusselization. So it happened mostly in Brussels. So the term is called Brusselization. So Brusselization can happen in Kathmandu as well with this kind of approach. It should resist. So now I'll talk about the emerging risk that is related to the development and planning efforts. So this is relatively new, and so this is a strategic plan for 2030. This is a vision for Kathmandu for 2030. So in this we can see the central business district like central London in the center, and we have nodes of the ring road as a sub-city center, and then the red dots in the outside with yellow in circles, they are the district centers. So there will be like a outer London district, satellite areas, and those are the new urban development. So this seems pretty vague and abstract, but if we overlay with the geographical map, this is what we see, and we have got a month ago there was the map of outer ring road, and there was a news that there will be 3 satellite towns that will be that government is deciding to build. So this all looks fine. We have a outer ring road, we have a existing ring road, and we have an inner ring road. The yellow circle is an inner ring road, and the blue and green lines are the proposed metro lines. So people will say this will take years or it will not happen. People might say that, but this work is happening. The road expansion in the inner city settlement is for this. So if you compare that, the road expansion is going along this side. So it is happening in steps. It's not like in a full form, but it's happening in the steps. And now the question is, like, what is the risk with our heritage? In this plan also, there are something very good, like they want to have a pedestrianization in the Hanuman Dhoka area and other things. But apart from World Heritage Site, we have other heritage as well, which are not visible to donors. So those heritages are on the risk. And historical settlements on the periphery area, like historical settlement of Tokha, Timi, Saku, they are also our heritage. And with these new satellite towns, with first satellite town which is going to be built in 5 years, Saku area, Chango and Timi can be affected. And we see Tokha near the northern part of the outer ring road, and we see other traditional settlements like Lubu, Harisibdi near satellite town and in the area of outer ring road. So what impact the new development will have upon these settlement is one question. And when we talk about having a new city, the land, the resource it needs, and the land will obviously be the agricultural land. So what about the need for open spaces in Kathmandu? We have seen the earthquake. We don't have open spaces, and we are adding everything in Kathmandu. And also we talk about decentralization. What about rest of the Nepal? Don't we need cities in rest of the Nepal? So if there's another earthquake again, and everyone is in Kathmandu, and there's no open space, so imagine the devastation that we are going to happen. The earthquake of 2015 wasn't as disastrous as it was predicted. Had it been so, we would have lost lots of lives. And we are adding more settlement areas, reducing greenery, reducing open spaces, and also this can impact upon the livelihood of the people living in the traditional areas. Like what they will do, they can only be a renters. They used to be doing agriculture, they used to do other things, so they will also depend, and Kathmandu already have to rely on food from outside, so this will make it even more dependent on outside. So this is something to be worried. And it's not just about outer settlement, even in an inner settlement. This is the yellow line is the inner ring road, proposed inner ring, and so we can see how Sorokute was completely destroyed and removed from that place. So Sorokute is no more in Sorokute. So there is an identity crisis. So this identity crisis can happen to entire Kathmandu as well if this goes on to a larger scale. So this is something to be worried. And then in the peripheral town, there was this traditional settlement called Sunagothi. So there is a road expansion line, and it crosses the settlement areas of the traditional settlement areas, and there is a temple as well. So we have seen how temples have shifted in between the roads in Kathmandu. So in the inner Kathmandu, so this can happen in the outer parts as well. So this is something to resist as well. So there are problems, but there are resistance as well. Community has started gaining awareness, and there has been a rise in awareness, and there's an anti-road expansion, and I just read yesterday that the people are gathering to protest the satellite town as well. But these are all scattered. They haven't been effective as it should have been, because they are not together and they are not doing in an integrated way. And in the map you can also see the red ones are the activities that community is doing to build its locality or build its heritage. So it's happening side by side, but they are not interrelated. So if you can interrelate them and they can work together, it can be something. So, and I would like to highlight on the problems that we have in our resistance as well. So what's been happening in Kathmandu is that government decides road expansion. Next day people will gather, and people will gather only if their houses are going to be along the road line. They won't care until and unless bulldozer come to their house, then only they gather. That's the problem we have. And when Kalimati was in road expansion, people in Maharajganj won't care. And when that same bulldozer comes to Maharajganj, then they will worry about it. So people have been reactive. So they are being very defensive. So just like in football, when you play a defensive game, there is high chance of losing the game. At most you can retain. So that is one problem. We are doing only the reactive, only reacting. And another problem is that the source of all problems lies in the strategic plan that has a vision and everything. Everything is all the projects are coming out from that, and there has not been opposition to the strategic plan. So we are only focusing on project. So project trickles down like road expansion, oppose the road expansion. Satellite city, oppose the road expansion. We don't care about the strategic plan that is creating all the projects. So we have to be careful on that as well. We need to go beyond the project-based resistance to policy level engagement. We need to be engaged in the policy. And there is this gap in the system. And people generally in the political spectrum, they say that we don't have a local bodies. There are no local representatives, so that's why we are having problem. So after local representatives are there, they will control everything. It's not going to happen. No matter which political party comes, no matter whatever happens, it's not going to be happen. And there's a reason for that, because our mayors, there are 12 mayors in Kathmandu alone. So there are 3 in Bhaktapur and 4 in Patan. So altogether there will be around 15 mayors in Kathmandu Valley. And there is one CEO of KVDA in Kathmandu. So KVDA is a valley level authority. So there is no valley level elected representative. So to oppose that, all of the mayors have to be together and oppose the activity of KVDA. And KVDA can only be controlled either by the cabinet or by Ministry of Urban Development or by NPCA through Prime Minister. And it has a strong support from the JICA, international agency. So we have to understand this. And what we see is we need a valley level platform. So people need to be connected in a valley level so that they can build a platform, because we don't have any elected authority. And if someone expects that our MP, our elected representative, can do something, there are 10 MP on constituency level, which is not even a valley level, and they have to be ministers first to do anything. So instead of waiting them to be a ministers, what we should do is we need to have a valley level platform to resist the activities that is being done in a KVD, and we need to engage in a policy level discourse. So now I'll talk about what communities can do, and I'll focus on what they need at that time, at this time, and building upon the need, where the communities need to do something on this. So reflecting on the existing practices of heritage management, community needs to identify the networks within them. So so in the diagram you can see the networks being taken out from the existing process, and from that network community needs to get the knowledge support. So it can get a knowledge support from international agency or from local education institution. Then it needs to build its capacity, and then it needs resource. It needs resource for functioning to do anything. So it needs knowledge, capacity, and resource, and it can happen within this network, or it can create network of its own. So this is something that community needs, so for its sustainable action. Then those communities who are resisting the road expansion and satellite city, what they need is a platform, as I have mentioned earlier. They need a platform, but platform for what? They need platform for collective action. They need platform because the action cannot be like protesting and getting a compensation. It's not just about that. It's about being in a position to make decision about your city. So for that, community needs to gather together. They need to be aware, and they need to equip themselves with the knowledge about policy. So that is what capacity development is. And then they need to collect the resources, and then they should be able to mobilize the resources to the desired direction. So this way community activism can be more sustainable. So for that it also needs knowledge, capacity, and resources support. And in case of this, it needs legal and policy support at most. We need platform for collective action here. So what we can do, what communities can do is, and what communities must do is, they should integrate these network and platform. So if we integrate this network that heritage management practices needs, and we integrate that with the platform, then we can get something like this. And with this framework, what communities can have is they can have a support base of knowledge, capacity, and resource, and through the network, and they can mobilize in terms of action of awareness generation, capacity building, and resource management. So for example, like rebuilding, there's a rebuilding Kathmandu, so they gain some experience through their networks, and that network can be utilized for urban development initiative, because Kathmandu will get built. After that, what next? So this way it can be more sustainable in longer run without being dependent. We talk about, we resist about foreign influence or foreigners saying about our country, but unless and until we become self-reliant, unless and until we have to rely on donors to do everything, we are not going to be self-reliant. So to be self-reliant as well, communities need a framework, a network, and a platform for themselves to be empowered. So they need to do, they need to build network and create platforms. So finally, if community builds its network and create a platform, what they can do is, they can not just resist the existing and emerging risk, they can also engage and propose an alternative solution, and they can be the part and main driver of change. So this way, community can build network, create platform to resist and engage the emerging risks and existing risk that is revolving around heritage. So we can not just conserve our heritage, but also we can develop our heritage in a longer run, in a sustainable way. Thank you.